Hey everybody, today we were out here checking out the F-1 from Neza e-bikes. This is a 750 watt, 48 volt, folding fat tire e-bike. And it's right over here, let's check it out. Alright guys, this is the F-1 from Neza e-bikes. We're going to go over all the specifications today, and if there's something you want to double check or you want to look at, we've got all of the specifications in the description down below. So to start things off, I'd like to mention that this is a class 2 bike, the way that it comes. So both the throttle and pedal assist, they cut off right around that 20 mile an hour mark. And there's a few things that you can do in the advanced settings to take this bike from a class 2 and take it into the class 3 territory, maxing out at about that 25 miles per hour. A few other things that come stock on this bike are the front and rear fenders. It also comes with a adjustable front fork, and we have some rear suspension right here. A few things here that you'll notice that don't come with the stock configuration are the rear rack and the extended power pack. The extended power kit will run you about another $500, and if you want to get just the rear rack without the power kit, then that's going to run you about $80. I believe it's $79 on the website. So this bike has a lot of utility. This is something you could use for just rolling around at the campground, something you could use for towing around a neighborhood, or even turn this into a commuter, maybe something you could tackle some of those tougher trails. Only because we have these big tires, full suspension, lots of power back here, so it's gonna allow us to kind of hit some more of those tougher terrains we might not want to take some other e-bikes on. However, I don't think this is necessarily a mountain bike or something that's gonna be going up and down mountains. But it is something that's going to be able to tackle some of those trails that, again, some of those e-bikes might want to steer clear of. Now, I did mention this could be a commuter bike, and although this might not be the perfect commuter, mainly because of the weight, and we'll get into that, it does have that folding capabilities. We do have the rear rack on here, so you could get some stuff in there for work. If you had to kind of bring this down a little bit to fit it under a desk or something like that, you do have that options, because we have a mid-folding here, and then the stem is also going to fold down. And again, we'll get into that just a little bit later. And like I mentioned, not really an ideal commuter bike, but if this is a bike that you had, I really think that you could turn this into a bike for a lot of different applications. So I did mention my main reason for this not being the ideal commuter is the weight. So with the power pack installed on here, this thing weighs 75.46 pounds. So it's pretty heavy, and just something to know before you decide to lug it up a few flights of stairs. And even if you have the stock configuration, that's right about 65 pounds. So again, just something to take into consideration. One of the things that I do really like about this, as far as the utility and getting into places, is this handle right here, just south of the folding point there. That is where the balance of the bike is. So you see some bikes where it's kind of awkward, the balance is somewhere where there's nothing to grip, and that was designed to pick it up. And so if you grab it right there in the middle, the whole bike is balanced right there on that handle. I really like that. It looks like some attention to detail went into that, to that little crossbar there. So I'm a big fan of that. So Neza is a fairly new company. They've got a couple of other bikes that they're looking to release. One is more of a road bike, and then the other one is kind of a hybrid, mid-drive, more suited to a commuter, maybe hitting some of those lighter trails. So we're excited to get our hands on those when they come out. I believe they are coming out sometime in the fall, so keep an eye open for that. All of the Neza bikes come with a 1-year warranty. Now, that's not the longest warranty by any means in the e-bike industry, but if you have something and you've used it for a year and you've used it well, I think you'd be able to get an insight into the longevity of the bike. As long as you're taking care of it and doing what you need to do as an end user, they're going to take care of you for that full year. We've been looking online. We haven't seen anything negative from the customer service side. In dealing with them as a reviewer, they are very on top of it, very responsive. They get us what we need as far as different specifications, because some of the things that we do, some of the specifications we have listed here in the comments are hand measured, hand weighed. There's just some things that we're not able to do that with. One of the other things I'd like to list as a plus for Neza is the packaging that this bike comes in. So the bike came in this huge box. It had cardboard underneath the bottom, so the whole bottom wasn't sitting on the ground. It was kind of built up with these cardboard legs on, you know, both the left side and the right side. Everything was packaged in there well. It's very cool to see this company put in the extra effort to make sure that the bike that they put in the box is the bike that you receive. We see a lot of e-bikes, especially some of the cheaper ones, where the packaging isn't the best, and so even though the company's doing a good job, the manufacturers are doing a good job, sometimes they don't survive the shipping process. And it's pretty cool to see this company putting in the extra effort to make sure the bike you receive is the way that they packaged it. So the F-1 currently comes in this one size, and they have two colors. They have their Stealth Black, and then they have the Glacier White, and this one, as I mentioned earlier, is the Glacier White model. Neza currently ships straight to consumer, and they offer free shipping to the lower 48 states with special rates going to Hawaii and Alaska. I'm not 100% sure what those rates are, but that's just something to look into when you're ordering the bike. So the frame over here is constructed of 6061 aluminum, pretty much the standard for a lot of these bikes. And it's not really a true mid-step. It's a little bit higher, in my opinion, than maybe most other mid-steps. So we've got a 26-inch standover height here. It's not too big, but it's a little bit of a hike if you were somebody who had lower back problems or knee problems. This is not a step through, low step through. It's very, very much in the middle tier there. But if you can get your leg over this 26-inch standover height, and that is not something you're worried about, this really is going to fit a large array of riders. And that's mainly due to the saddle height that we can get out of this thing. They have a minimum saddle height of 21 inches and a maximum saddle height of 36 inches. And then the reach over here is 17 inches. So that's something that's very accessible for a lot of people. Now I've got these handlebars a little bit higher than normal even for me. Normally I might have them somewhere around here, but I was liking the way that I was having the seat really low and then having this really high. It's kind of giving me a little bit of that chopper feel. So definitely a lot of options to experiment with different heights and different positions that you can get out of this bike. This bike is on the longer side. It kind of has one of those smaller frame looks to it, and when I was looking at it online, I was sort of expecting it to be a little bit smaller. But this is a pretty long bike. This is 72 inches from tip to tip. So just another thing to keep in mind. And then when you have this thing folded down, it folds up to 40 inches by 23 inches by 31 inches. And we'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. We'll fold it up, unfold it, show you how easy it is. And moving back here to the saddle, we have this Neza branded saddle. Now this thing is pretty wide. I mean, that's my hand, and it's a solid 8.5 inches wide here in the back. So it kind of has more of a moped or scooter feel to it. I know you guys are probably sick of me saying it, but when you're looking at the saddle and you're wondering if it's going to be comfortable for you, it's really about matching that saddle to your sit bones. It's not about thinner, wider, more cushion, less cushion. It really is kind of one of those things where you got to fit it to yourself, and everybody's different. Everybody's got different butts. So I feel like most of the wider seats that I've tested in the past haven't been too comfortable, but the way this one fits me, I like it. I haven't taken too many longer rides on it yet, but this is one of those saddles that I feel like is going to be pretty comfortable for me to sit on. And then right down here we have the rear suspension. This is our HLT 100. This is a spring suspension, and it has 24 millimeters of travel. So 24 millimeters of travel, not a whole lot, but when you have this with the front suspension in the front and these big old 4-inch tires, it really is going to add quite a bit of cushion to the ride. And speaking of those tires, we have these big 20-inch by 4-inch tires here. These are from Chow Yang. So I haven't heard of these guys before, but based on some of the tests that we've done, just kind of feeling it and looking at that, they seem to be on par with some of the Kendas that we have tested in the past. Now there's a few things you don't get. So we don't have any sidewall stripes on this bike, and we don't have any puncture protection. So for future models of the bike, that would be something cool to see them implement stock. I feel like they've got a really, really good start on this bike, and just kind of adding a few more of those details is really going to bring this bike from this mid-tier maybe into more of the premium range if they can get some of these extra things added on here. And these tires here, they do produce a little bit of road noise. Now, it is obviously a lot more than, say, a 2-inch wide tire, but it's very on par with some of the Kendas that we've tested in the past as far as the noise level. And, similar to some of those, it is even covering up a lot of the motor noise back there from that Bafang. And so then these front forks here, they are adjustable. We've got quick knobs on both of these sides. It's cool when a company is going to give us adjustable forks. We've also got the quick adjustment knobs here. Some of them will say quick adjustment, but if they don't have these knobs, then they're just kind of adjustment. And these front forks, they are unbranded, so I'm unsure of the manufacturer of them, but they do come with 60 millimeters of travel. Again, it's not the most travel, but when paired with these fat tires, you're really gonna add a lot of comfort to the ride. And then right here we have this front light. The front light, it has a cool pattern to it. So you'll see some of these lights, especially these smaller LED lights, where the dispersion of the light is kind of erratic. Sometimes it's circular, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's narrow, sometimes it's wide. And this one actually has a perpendicular beam. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but when the light shoots out, it shoots out nice and flat, and so the further away it goes, the wider it gets, but it is a very flat sort of light. Now it has a little bit of spill off up and down, but it is kind of cool because it kind of goes out to the road and then paints the road in light. And then obviously you can adjust it up or down depending on your terrain and how you like to see and what sort of points you're trying to look at. And then up here we have these rubberized grips, and they do have a locking point on them. So one of the things that I mention usually with grips is if they have a locking point or not. This one does. The grips, I really like them. They're these ergonomic style grips. They've got some nice cushion to them. It feels like it's all in one piece, but it's got some really good grip points, and got some little grip here, a little bit of grip here. So when your hands are on there, it's not going anywhere. And I don't get any play with these like we've seen on some of the other e-bikes. So that's another safety point for us, having these locking features here. And then moving on to the brakes, we have these Falel 160 millimeter disc brakes. We've got 160 millimeter discs both on the front and the rear. No complaints about these. They seem to be doing the job. They are mechanical disc brakes as opposed to some of the hydraulic disc brakes that we've seen on some e-bikes. We don't have any cool grips or anything on this side. Recently we did a review and they had that and I like that, so maybe I'm just missing that. But they do what they need to do, they do the job. And right next to that we have the main controls for the bike. We have our mode button, our down, our up arrow. Our mode button here is what's going to turn on the bike, and then if we hold down the down arrow, that is what's going to put us into walk mode. And we'll do a little demo of the walk mode in just a little bit, but it's cool to see the walk mode here. And if you hold the up arrow down, it is going to turn on the lights. Now, something that I'm sort of confused about is that we also have this secondary button panel down here with a light button where you can turn the light on and off from right here. And it also comes included with a turn signal. So this switch, you can turn the turn signal to go right, you can turn it to go left, which is cool. This is definitely a safety feature. But as that relates to this one, when you have the bike on, you can turn this on and it'll say lights and it says manual on it. But I'm unsure if it actually does anything. Now, I don't know if it's different because there's a little bit of wiring that you have to do in order to get this extra battery pack to work with the bike. We'll get into that, when we get into the battery portion, but there's a little bit of wire putting that you have to do. It's all very easy. I think anybody could do it. If you have any sort of hesitation on doing that, we'll get into that a little bit later, but it's pretty simple. So I don't know if this configuration is what is allowing me to turn on the lights on and off without having to use that up button. So if you guys have the stock version of this bike and you're telling me that this turns the light on and off, that'd be cool to know. So leave me a comment down below. Yeah, and so we'll go ahead and turn it on. So we'll hold down this mode button, and that is going to turn on our screen here. So this screen it's not the biggest screen that we've seen, but all of the readouts on here are very big. So I really like that. I mean, the speed here is super huge. That's probably like about 2 inches tall, and it goes across the whole screen. So that's cool. So even if I'm way back here, in my perspective, with the human eye, it's still big. So I can see this pretty much from anywhere on the bike. I haven't had any issues with any sort of glare or anything like that. I don't know if that's coming across in the camera, but when you're on the bike, you can pretty much read this from every angle, in direct sunlight and all that sort of stuff. So the things that this is going to show us is it's going to show us our battery level. We've got this up on the top. In my riding so far, I think this is a little bit on the predictive side. We've kind of broken that down a little bit as to sometimes a readout will show you like, hey, this is exactly how much battery you have. And this one seems to be like, hey, if you're going to use this bike at this pedal assist level going this fast, then it's really right about here. Like, this is how much time you're going to get. So for me, it's more of a time measurement than an actual battery percentage. But when you turn it on and it tells you what it is, I think that's going to be a little bit more close to accurately to what the batteries actually have. So again, so we got the speed, we've got the power remaining, we've got the pedal assist level, and we can just adjust that over here with the buttons. It goes up to 5, we can turn it down to 0. And we have the odometer here. I reset it, so I put more than 1 mile on here. That was just my trip out here to film. And then we can switch what we're looking at by using that mode button again. And so we've got the trip distance, we have got the volume, and then we have the current trip, and then we have the time that the bike has been on. So that's kind of cool, just in case you're wondering, what time it is. If you got a reference point, say, hey, it's 2, you hopped on the bike at 2, you've been on there for 30 minutes, you're like, hey, guess what, it's 2:30. And that's if, you don't have your Apple Watch on or your smartphone in your pocket or something like that. And so, yeah, very happy with this. Again, pretty much see it from everywhere. It's nice and big, very crisp. It is adjustable. So you've got these little adjustments down here with the Allen keys. And all the Allen keys for all the bike are provided. I think there's 3 or 4 of them that come with this bike. I haven't found anything on here that I was trying to do where I need to go get another Allen key. So if there's something on this bike that you want to adjust, they're going to provide you with the tools to do that. And over here we have the throttle. So this throttle, there's no safety button or anything like that, which is something we see usually with twist throttles. So since this one's a paddle, we don't have any sort of safety button or anything like that. Not really a big deal because it is this paddle lever here. And the whole thing is plastic, but it feels like it's pretty solid construction. Doesn't feel cheap or anything like that, but it is light. So pretty good. I like the design of it. It is fairly big, so for like my thumb, that it's way bigger than my thumb is. So lots of real estate here for pushing this down. And then up here we have the Shimano Revo Shift, something like that. It is a 8-speed. So I like the fact that they kept it simple with the shifting here, especially because we only have those 8 gears to play around with. I feel like 8 is probably the right number. Not too few, but not too many to the point where I feel like, there's some sort of redundancy there. So I like this. This is my first time playing around with one of these. We've seen the SIS index ones, the ones where you click it in. I'm, becoming a big fan of those. But this is my first time playing around with one of these, and I like it. It tells you right down here what gear you're in, and then if you want to go up, hey, you turn it this way. If you want to go down, it goes that way. So very simple, very straightforward. And then on this side we have the half grip that was matching to the other side here. And then with this stem we do have a lot of flexibility, and there's about this much more stem, I believe, down here. So I don't see any markings or any sort of minimum distance or maximum distance, things like that. So just something to be aware of. Just know where your endpoint is, and you're not having it too high and then too low. It's not really an issue. We can adjust the handlebars here. So there is 2 Allen keys on this side. Again, those Allen keys are provided, and you can adjust the cant to them as well. Again, I was trying to go for this kind of chopper feel, so I have them canted back just a little bit more maybe than I normally would. And then down here on the stem we have this locking folding mechanism. One of the things that I really like about this one, and how it's a little bit different than some of the other ones that we've seen, is when you go to unlock this, so we go to unlock it, it actually unlatches this part of the other side, and so that is actually what folds down. So it folds up, and then we've got these nice grooves over here, and then when you go to latch it, it latches in there and becomes part of the head tube here. So I really like this design. Again, in the assembly process was super simple to put it on there. Surprisingly less bolts to tighten and things to have to manipulate than some of the other e-bikes. So I'm a big fan of the way that they've got this set up. And then heading around to the other side, we have this Shimano Altus derailleur over here. It's done everything we've asked it to do so far. We also have the inclusion of this rust-resistant chain that is over here, so I like that. A little bit of another bonus there. And then peeking back here is the thing that makes the whole machine go, and that is that 750 watt Bafang motor. This thing is brushless, and so we don't get a whole lot of noise from this thing. It's definitely on par with any of the other Bafangs we've tested, and the power's there, the responsiveness is there. This motor paired with the controller that they have in here is doing an excellent job. So no complaints here, it is doing what we need it to do. Bafang is one of those bigger companies, so the quality's there, the quality control is there. So this is something that we like to see because we can trust that a little bit more than say some of the other brands that maybe we haven't heard of and we have to test for ourselves. So this is a Bafang. It's got the big old Bafang sticker and the engraving on it, so we know that this thing is pretty legit. And with a motor that's this powerful and having mechanical disc brakes, this thing also has motor inhibitors. When you use the brakes, it turns the motor off. That's just another safety feature that I want to highlight there. And then moving up here, we have this 170 millimeter 5-bolt 53 tooth chain ring. No complaints here, everything seems to be engineered well. And then back here we have this little chain guard. I haven't seen one of these come stock on a bike, so this is kind of neat. You can adjust kind of where this is sitting on the bike and then how this is going to interact with the chain there. And then the pedals we have are this one-click folding pedal. And I hadn't heard of this brand before, I haven't seen these pedals before, but I really like this design. And so with some of the Well-Go pedals, you have to press the whole thing in and then you fold it up, if you know, you've seen some of those and some of our other reviews. I think most of the folding pedals that we have covered are those Well-Go folding pedals. But this one, there's just this little notch here in the top, and then you pull it and it folds. So do it and then you pop it back in. And so doing this with one hand is super duper easy, whereas those Well-Gos, sometimes you have to push it, maybe get another hand back there. So I really like this design. Again, I haven't heard of this company. I don't know how well these are gonna hold up, but this design is awesome. You know, no complaints here. We do have, you know, a little bit of reflection here. One of the things that I would mention, I guess more of a personal preference, is I like when the pedals are a little bit wider, and so these ones are a little bit on the thin side. So you look at, like, you know, my hand compared to that. I guess I'll have to do a video about the dimensions of my hand because I've been using that for a lot of references here. They're just not as wide as I personally would want. I would like them if maybe they were a little bit thinner and a little bit wider. That would be super dope. But this is a folding bike, and so if you're really going to take advantage of that, you know, having smaller pedals, not a big deal, especially when they're that easy. So if the trade-off is, hey, you get a little less real estate, but I get to do that, I think I'm into it. So I like those. And that pretty much covers the nuts and bolts of the bike. Let's go ahead and take these batteries out and talk about those. All right, so we're gonna pull both of these batteries out and then we're gonna go lay them down and talk about them. So let's get this main battery out here. So to take out the main battery, we're just gonna come over here and we are going to open the latch here. Now this latch fits really, really well. Some of the folding bikes we've had, you know, maybe we've had to do a little bit of adjustment to kind of get those to work right. But this thing closes really well. I feel like this is really secure. And we do have the inclusion of this. This is from shipping. I left it on there just because, you know, in case I was bringing this down, I didn't want to scratch up this part of the bike. And then we also had another one of those that was right up here to keep this off of the frame. So that was pretty cool. Just to see, again, just another little attention to detail to keep our bike safe while they're shipping it. So to get to the locking mechanism, it is down on this side. You can also charge the battery through this hole right here. So you don't have to take the battery out to charge it, which is nice if that's convenient for you. Then it's cool that they're offering this to us as well. So down here we have the key, and then we're going to twist it to unlock it, take the key out. One of the things about these keys, and I'll probably talk about that, is they are not removable. So once you put the battery in there, you can lock it and then take the key out, but if you want to turn it on, the key, you know, stays in there. So the key is going to be up under this bike the whole time you are riding. You know, personal preference, I don't necessarily love that, but I do know where the key is going to be, right? So that's kind of the other drawback there. So then we're going to pop this bike around. Do this with the GoPro, and one hand is a little bit harder. And then you got this nice little handle here, and it's just going to slide out. So that is that. Go ahead and set this down for a second. Close this back up. We'll do a proper demonstration of the folding, unfolding in a little bit. Pick this up and we'll put that right over here. And then the rear battery has two keys that come with it. It has the key here to turn this battery on or off. And then we also have this key to keep the whole thing locked in. So right now, I can't remove this battery. We do have this cool little finger grip on the inside, right down there. So let me pull out the keys. So this is one of the keys, and we're just gonna pop that in there, turn it till it's unlocked. We can pull that key out, and then we can remove the battery. All right, so for this main battery, this is a Panasonic 48 volt. This one is 17.25 amp hours, and 816 watt hours. It is a lithium ion construction, and it takes about 5.5 hours to charge. When I got mine, there wasn't any charge in there, and I think mine clicked off right about the 5-hour mark. So saying 5.5 hours is probably pretty good, probably pretty average charge there. And you can get an estimated anywhere between like 45 to 50 on the minimum range, and then up to 78 miles just off of this battery. And obviously that is going to be in a lower pedal assist level with, you know, very, very flat surfaces, and then any sort of like inclines, higher pedal assist levels, that will drain your battery a little bit faster. But, you know, they claim you can get 78 miles just on this one alone. Now, if we come over here and we add in the extended power pack, this one is going to give us up to 100 miles. So an extra 22 miles out of this one right here. A couple things I do like about it are we have that on-off switch on this side, which is nice. Again, we've got these handholds under here when we're pulling it in and out of the bike. And we also have this quick charge test button right here. So to let you know how many bars are in there. So like right now we've got 3, and you just click it on and find out what it is. Now that only works when the battery is on. So if the battery is off, you got to click on it, you know, nothing. So it might not be dead. You might just have to turn it on, and then you can test with that. So this is 7.65 amp hours, 367 watt hours. It takes about 2.5 hours to charge. Now this one was fully charged, so I haven't gotten to charge this one yet. But if they are as accurate, you know, with the charge times on this one, 2.5 hours is probably reasonable to get that one charged. And again, with both of these batteries combined, you should be able to get a max range of 100 miles, which is pretty incredible on any e-bike. Again, that's pretty much perfect scenario, maybe even wind at your back. But based on the math, it seems like something that is possible, so that is cool to see. And you know, for an extra $500, you get this, and you get the rear rack that comes with it. And then the charger over here, it is a 2 amp charger, works for both of the batteries, and this thing weighs about 1.5 pounds. Feels like a pretty solid construction. It's got a nice little light on here, you know, red when it's charging, green when it's done. So very cool, very simple. And that's pretty much it for the nuts and bolts of the bike. We went over the battery. We'll go ahead and put these batteries back in there, go over the walk mode, and then we will head out for the ride test. Went ahead and put the batteries back in there, and I want to talk about this extended power pack and some of the things that are involved with having this and how you attach this to the rest of the bike. As I mentioned, this is a $500 upgrade, 80 bucks if you want to get just the rack. So if you're not interested in the you know, the max 100 mile range, then you can just get the rack for another 80 bucks, which is something I would probably do because I enjoy, you know, having this. So many options back there. You can throw a milk crate back there, you can throw some bags back there. Really opens up the possibilities for, you know, this bike, depending on, you know, your situation and what you're trying to carry around. When you get the battery pack, it comes with the back part installed into the rack already, and then this part of the battery was separate. So you would put that on. It's got these attachment points, 2 on the other side to attach it to. And again, you would slide this battery in the housing and you can lock it right here. And then you have this key up here, which is the ignition key for the battery back here. So we can turn it off, and we can take our key out. We can turn it in standby mode, and we can turn it on. So how this all works is you have to connect this battery to the battery plate inside here and the controller. And then it's really only 4 wires that you have to connect. So again, it was super easy. They're all pretty much plug and play connections. Just something to keep in mind. So you'll run the cords down here. They have this attachment point, and they provide you with the zip ties, and then it's going to run up here into the housing, and this all takes place in there. So you have to have this on for juice to flow to the rest of the bike, because now this battery is kind of running through this battery in a way. This is sort of one of the gates to get the bike to work. So right now in this position, we're not actually using this battery, we're using this battery, but this has to be on in order for this battery to function. So there's a few extra steps when you have this configured to look into. And again, all of these keys don't come out of the bike. So we've got a key here, we've got this key up under here, and this key is removable. So there's a total of 6 keys, right? 2 for each one of these locking mechanisms here. And so that's just something to keep in mind, is that now it becomes a little bit more of a process to get the bike on and off. There's no quick switch to go back and forth between batteries. This is the way that it works now. And I'm sure, you know, in the future there's plenty of ways that they can upgrade that to make it a little bit more simple. But to turn this bike on, right, so you would turn this on, and now the bike is ready to pull juice from here. I've already got this one on, and now I can turn the bike on. So then if I turn this on, now I'm using the battery from here. So just a few more steps, something to consider when you're looking at the extra power pack for sure. Before we get into the ride test, let's check out this walk mode. So in order to engage the walk mode, we're gonna hold down this down button for about 3 seconds. Go ahead and do that. And the walk mode starts. And this is a very easy walk. Hitting that 1.3, 1.5 miles per hour. Very easy jaunt. I'm kind of pushing it just a little bit to get to that 2, but this is super easy. Doing it with one hand. And then as soon as we let go, it stops. So we see some of those ones where you hold this down for 3 seconds, it turns on the walk mode, and then you gotta hold it down for another 3 seconds before it stops. But that can be sort of dangerous sometimes, you know, running into things like that. Whereas this one, as soon as we take our thumb off of there, it is unengaged. So nice little safety feature there, and the walk mode is super easy, not too fast of a pace here. So everything functions really well, pretty much a flawless walk mode in my opinion. All right guys, so we are back in the neighborhood and we are gonna start the ride test. So first thing we're gonna do is we are going to use this bike, no throttle, no pedal assist, and let's see how it functions as a bike. So we've got it in first gear over here, and we're just gonna start pedaling. Go ahead into second gear. And third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, and 8. So one of the things that I do like right off the bat is even when we're not using pedal assist, like we see on some of these bikes, it will tell you how fast you're going even if you're just pedaling. So that is super cool. Not something that every single bike offers, so it's cool to point that out when we get it. All right, so we'll go ahead and work through the pedal assist. We've got pedal assist level 1. So the motor kicks in, let's shift down there a little bit. So the motor kicks in right at about half a rotation. So that is super nice to see. Some of these bikes, you know, they're a little less responsive. And one has taken us to right about 11. Let's see, and pedal assist level 2. Right about 15. And pedal assist level 3. Taking us right to the 18 mile an hour mark. And 4. Getting up to that 20 mile an hour mark there. So stock, this bike does come configured as a class 2, but I have got this one set up as a class 3, so I'm gonna be able to hit that 25 mile an hour mark. Now with class 3, you can get up to 28 miles per hour on those bikes, and it'd still be considered a class 3, but this one's top speed is 25 miles per hour, and it feels pretty good. All right, so we're gonna test out just the throttle here. And again, there's no throttle safety on this thing. If you press down the lever, you are gonna go. And something else to note is that with this setup, with some, the pedal assist level will affect the throttle, but the only thing that affects the throttle is pedal assist level 0 versus pedal assist level 1. And 1 will take us all the way up to that 20 mile an hour mark. So you will have to control your own speed with the throttle. I like that personally, I would prefer that, but just something to keep in mind if you're expecting to have to adjust that. So we're hitting that 20 mile an hour mark, cruising along, not feeling any of these bumps. It is just a very, very comfy ride. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and test the brakes out on this one. Just get up to that 20 mile an hour speed here. Right around there. Just give it a little brake. Oh, right about that 9, 10 foot mark. I'll go ahead and do it one more time. And again, with these brakes, we do have those motor inhibitors in there, so that is nice. We don't get any like tail light action, so like if we're hitting the brakes, it's not going to show on our tail light if the tail light's on, but we are going to get that motor inhibitor. So we'll go ahead and stop it again. Yep, right around that 10, 11 foot mark there. So you got about 10 feet of stopping power, and honestly, I am almost positive that these brakes could be adjusted to be a little bit better. I did do a quick adjustment on them to make sure that the discs were sliding around there right, and I feel like those could be fine-tuned a little bit better to give us maybe a little bit better stopping power. All right, guys, that is going to do it for our review of the F-1 from Neza e-bikes. If you want to check them out, I'll put a link to their website in the description. And if there's any other specifications that you want to see that you didn't hear mentioned here, we probably have those in the description as well. And any other questions you guys have, please let us know in the comments. Love talking to you guys, and we will catch you on the next one.